for our Senate. I think it's time for a change.
It hurts. In fact, it's an embarrassment.
We're talking about Senator Johnson, a person who supported a violent insurrection and left 140 officers injured.
I immediately condemned, forcefully condemned, repeatedly condemned the violence.
No, I won't be asking the president to come in, or very, very few, if any, national people, to come in and actually campaign with us.
That was Ohio Democratic Senate candidate Tim Ryan speaking to CBS News earlier today. Our one-on-one interview with him is coming up. Welcome to Red and Blue. I'm Robert Costa in our Washington bureau. Thank you for joining us. We are officially 4 weeks away from Election Day, and tonight we dive into the races in Ohio, Georgia, and Wisconsin. All could change the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. As candidates clash with their opponents these days, party leaders are on the campaign trail. Joining us now is CBS News congressional correspondent Nicole Killian out there in Carrollton, Georgia. And we have CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns with us as well in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But Nicole, let's begin with you. In the all-important state of Georgia, you're on the ground there covering a recent rally today for the Republican Senate nominee, Herschel Walker. What are you picking up in the Peach State?
Well, in terms of the folks at this rally, as you can imagine, most of them were in support of Herschel Walker. This is a pretty deeply red area, so for the most part, voters were pretty sympathetic and do believe him in terms of his dismissal and denials of these allegations with respect to some of these reports about him allegedly paying for a woman's abortion and perhaps encouraging her to get a second abortion. And again, CBS News has not independently verified those claims, but it was something that a lot of voters we spoke to weighed in. Also, as you know, Senator Tim Scott, who is NRSC chairman, as well as Senator Tom Cotton, were at this event together with Walker, really trying to rally support behind him. And I had a chance to ask both of them whether they have any concerns about these allegations and how it may play out in this Senate race. What do you say to those in your party who have concerns?
Herschel Walker's led the dream of this country. He's come from the ground up from a small town with no money. He's worked hard every day. He believes in this country, and that's why people are going to vote for him.
Have either of you had conversations with him about these latest allegations?
Raphael Warnock and the Democrats want to make this about Herschel Walker's yesterdays. Herschel Walker make this about Georgia's tomorrow.
Now, Senator Scott also responded after that, saying that once again, Herschel Walker has continued to deny these accusations, and he is still very confident that he can pull out a win in this race.
Senator Scott seems to be confident, Nicole, but what about the NRSC, which Scott is the chairman of? Are they going to continue to pour money into Georgia? Are they still going to stick with Walker, not only politically, but financially?
Well, we know that they have continued to put ads on the air here in Georgia. And again, in terms of Senator Scott, I think he was trying to send a strong signal and message by being here today. Interestingly, he was asked whether or not other Senate Republicans may campaign with Walker, and he wouldn't really say if that is a possibility. Also worth noting, whether the former president decides to come down and campaign for Herschel Walker. He was an early endorser of Herschel Walker, as you know, encouraged him to run, and so far we have yet to see him here in the state.
And in terms of the Democratic side here, what are we hearing from Senator Warnock in his closing message? Is he focusing on the allegations against Herschel Walker or turning to other issues?
He has mostly tried to steer clear of these allegations. Of course, he has been asked about them multiple times as new developments emerge in these stories. But the only thing primarily that he has said in response is that he does find some of the allegations disturbing, and he does think that Georgia voters have a sharp contrast when it comes to both of the candidates. And so he obviously is hoping that he wins out. But I would also note that in terms of some of these campaign ads, there have also been a number of ads here on the air running, accusations and allegations about Reverend Warnock and potential marital troubles, running ads here featuring his ex-wife. The campaign thus far, these are some things that surfaced back in 2020 as well, which, the senator has said have been disproven. But that being said, this just kind of goes to show how nasty and ugly this campaign has gotten, that, it's gotten personal on both sides.
And are we going to hear anything more from Herschel Walker at length about the allegations from multiple news outlets, including the latest New York Times report from the last few days about how he encouraged a second pregnancy to be terminated?
Well, we do know that he did an interview today with ABC News, and in a clip that was released by the network, he once again denied the allegations and was asked if he ever paid for an abortion for a woman, to which he replied no. Whether he encouraged a woman to get an abortion, to which he replied no. But, we tried to ask our own questions today at this event, and we're not allowed to speak with him. He didn't do any type of gaggle with reporters today.
Nicole Killian, appreciate your hard work and your reporting on the ground in the key state of Georgia. Thank you very much.
You bet.
Let's bring in our colleague Caitlin Huey-Burns with us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Caitlin, you spoke this week with both candidates for U.S. Senate in this key battleground, Democrat Mandela Barnes and Republican incumbent Senator Ron Johnson. What's the latest?
Hey, Bob. Yeah, this is a very close U.S. Senate race. Our polling shows how close of a race this is. And I got the opportunity to talk to both candidates about one issue that is really shaping and defining this race, and that is the issue of crime. In our CBS News Battleground Tracker poll, voters overall ranked it as the third highest issue, just behind the economy and inflation, but higher than the issue of abortion. I asked Ron Johnson about this and Mandela Barnes about this. Let's listen to what Johnson had to say, especially since he's been driving this issue on the airwaves in particular, but also has been there have been a lot of questions raised about his credibility on the issue, given what he has said about the insurrection on January 6th.
Talking about January 6th, you said that it wasn't an armed insurrection. How can you say that but also claim to support the police?
I immediately condemned, forcefully condemned, repeatedly condemned the violence. But there weren't thousands of armed insurrectionists. That's a false narrative. It's a false narrative being pushed by the left to try and paint half of America as now, unfortunately, President Biden has called them semi-fascists or potential domestic terrorists. It's just not true. It's not true. But I condemn the violence, always have, always will, but I also condemn the violence in 570 riots.
Caitlin, you also spoke with Mandela Barnes.
That's right. And Mandela Barnes has been trying to make the issue of abortion access key to this campaign. And we see in our polling that that is an issue driving his support. It's a top issue of concern among Democratic voters. But on the issue of crime, he has essentially been on the defense, getting attacks from Ron Johnson over previous support for reallocating resources for police departments. I asked him directly what his position is on this issue, and here's what he had to say.
You have supported in the past, though, reallocating resources for police departments. Do you still support that?
Well, what I support is making sure that law enforcement has the resources they need to keep us safe, but also doing the work to prevent crime. We should take a both sides approach. When I talk to police officers across the state, they know that to make their job easier, it's much different when communities have the resources they need to keep the communities safe and to provide a sense of security for folks who feel like they've lost everything. And that's the unfortunate part about this. And we're talking about Senator Johnson, a person who supported a violent insurrection, left 140 officers injured.
Caitlin, you're in Milwaukee, such an important city in the state of Wisconsin, key for Democrats to get turnout there. I remember going to cover Secretary Clinton's presidential campaign in Milwaukee in 2016, and it was all about driving out Democratic voters in that city, union workers and others. you've been on the ground. What are you noticing about energy for the Democrats, or lack thereof, in that city?
Well, I can tell you that it definitely feels like campaign mode here. I was in North Carolina, as you know, last week, and it felt like a little bit of a sleepier race. Here, you drive around Milwaukee, you drive around the neighborhoods, and there are yard signs everywhere for the candidates. Remember, there's also a really competitive governor's race here where incumbent Tony Evers is trying to win re-election against a Republican. So it definitely feels like there are, fewer than 30 days to go here. But it's interesting on kind of how the issues are shaping the race. We were at an event where Mandela Barnes focused on abortion, talking to a roundtable of women. We also went to an event where retirees, retired union workers were really concerned about Social Security and health care. And then earlier today, we were with Ron Johnson, where he was getting an endorsement from police officers. So you see that the economy and inflation are top of mind, but when you drill down to issues that are motivating the base of support for these respective candidates, it's a lot of the focus is what we're seeing in some of these other states, the issue of crime and abortion shaping the races in the final stretch.
Caitlin Huey-Burns on the ground for Red and Blue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bob.
A fiery debate last night in the Ohio Senate race. We'll talk to the Democrat in that contest, Tim Ryan, about whether or not the president helps his cause in the final stretch. You're streaming Red and Blue, reporting across the political divide.
You ready?
A generation of kids opens up on CBS Reports.
I just want to be like a regular kid.
Their world, their struggles, their voices.
What if I was white?
A lot of people like to call names and make you feel ashamed for being proud of who you are.
Now streaming Free Speech.
It's evident that there's a wave of censorship across the nation.
Angry partisan debate in schools.
College campuses have not been a place of intellectual diversity for the longest time now.
Are loud voices silencing a generation.
I don't feel comfortable speaking out.
I started to realize I wasn't even discussing stuff in class. I was keeping all my thoughts to myself.
Are the kids all right? Free Speech. Now streaming on the free CBS News app. An original documentary from CBS Reports. Tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely.
As Taiwan faces threats and aggression.
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, they are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
What are the words you would use to describe the Queen?
Kind, caring, and a nice lady.
I'm here for you. America needs drivers.
And we're here to help.
What are you learning from Girls on the Run?
Never give up and to always keep trying.
You can see fire and rescue is up. They're doing wellness checks when people are trapped inside their homes.
We're going to be okay. We're going to make it.
We are so excited, we just can't hide it. Drew Barrymore.
Hi, guys.
Mayor Savino.
Miss Lopez and Mr. Maluma are Reggie.
It's the Fonz.
His name is Henry.
I know. It's all right. One question. How often do you consume cannabis?
CBS mornings are, well, everything your morning should be.
Is this a date or are we just friends?
Here we are, your favorite morning people.
CBS mornings, starting at 7.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Robert Costa. Two candidates vying for Ohio's open Senate seat this November faced off in a contentious debate last night. Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan and Trump-endorsed Republican J.D. Vance, they fought over issues including the economy, immigration, and health care. Ohio has been trending to the right in recent cycles, but Ryan, making a populist pitch to working people, has surprised some by making it a tight race. During the debate, the Senate rivals, they tackled the issue of crime.
So we got to increase funding for law enforcement. We've got to protect law enforcement. And we've got to do something that Tim Ryan failed to do, which is stop the leadership of this country from going after qualified immunity. Here's what qualified immunity does. It provides legal protections for our police officers when they do their jobs. They need that so that they can attract the right people.
We need more cops. We need better paid cops. And yeah, we got to get rid of bad cops. We need more technology and equipment. I've brought back almost $500 million for law enforcement here in Ohio. And when I get to the Senate, I will continue to do that.
CBS News did reach out multiple times to the Vance campaign to join us tonight for an interview, and we did not have a reply to our request for that interview. Joining us now is Congressman Tim Ryan, the Ohio Democrat and Senate nominee. Congressman, thanks for being here on Red and Blue. We appreciate your time. After last night's debate, which we just heard a bit of, have you heard from the Biden White House or Senate Democratic leaders at all? And have they made a commitment of more resources in your race?
No, we haven't heard from anybody. Last two public polls have us up 3 points. We're got a bunch of grassroots supporters that are helping us, and we're prepared to go it alone here, but we're going to win it. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be good for everybody, because I'll get to D.C., knowing that we did this on our own, and I'll be an independent voice for Ohio, which is kind of what we want.
That's a striking thing to hear. On your own. It's October 11th, the election less than a month away. At this point, is the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee doing enough and spending enough in Ohio?
I would like to think that you have a candidate that's up 3, blue-collar guy from outside of Youngstown, Ohio, kind of the, area of the country, the kind of, groups of people, working-class people, whether they're white or black or brown, men or women, working-class people that I'm connecting with in a very significant way, pulling significant Republican voters and independent voters. You would think they would want to be actively engaged in this race, that it would be good for us to win the seat, but also good for the party. But we'll have to see. They got a lot of different, calculations that they got to make. We're prepared to go at this on our own, but I'm telling you, we're going to win the race, because the other advantage is, J.D. Vance is losing support. He's losing Republican support. And after the debate last night, our phones are ringing off the hook with Republicans, Republican donors, Republican voters that want to come help. So, we've got a lot of momentum now. We just got to keep it going.
You're calling yourself an independent voice, running as a Democrat. You have choices to make in the coming weeks. Do you want President Biden to come to Ohio and publicly campaign with you in this final lap?
No, I won't be asking the president to come in, or very, very few, if any, national people, to come in and actually campaign with us, because I want to be the main face, the main messenger of this campaign. I grew up in Ohio. I'm Ohio in my bones. My wife is from just outside the Youngstown area like me. She's a 20-year public school teacher. Our kids go to public schools. Like, we're just, we're an Ohio family that wants to connect with other Ohioans. And I don't think anybody can come in, like Trump coming in for J.D. Vance actually was an absolute net negative for him. It's like, run your own race, stand on your own 2 feet. That's what Ohioans want. And that's what I'm going to do.
Congressman, the January 6th committee, run by some of your colleagues in the House, holding a hearing on Thursday. Does that committee and its work matter at all in your race, the Ohio Senate race, and is its work breaking through with voters?
Well, I think it's breaking through in the sense that it is really narrowing that group of extremists who will continue to try to defend the indefensible. And I think it's the unique part about it is it's a great service to our democracy. Kudos to Liz Cheney. Kudos to Adam Kinzinger, the Republicans who are showing great courage. But it's also speaking to that sliver of the electorate that is also probably Republican or independent minded, that are also concerned about the Dobbs decision. They're also concerned about what happened with the Supreme Court and the overreach on the issue of choice. and then nullifying same-sex marriages and wanting to go down the road of birth control. It opens the door to the conversation of the extremism. And so in that regard, I think it's helpful to pull a lot of those voters over. And J.D. Vance is in with the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Lindsey Graham and a national abortion ban. Ted Cruz is in campaigning for him. So all of these people are kind of highlighting the fact that J.D. Vance is in with the Looney Tune group of the Republican Party. And so those moderates and independent voters, it'll give them more reason to come our way.
You just mentioned birth control. Abortion rights has galvanized some voters across the country in the wake of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. To what extent is this issue galvanizing Democrats and some others in Ohio? Is it dramatically changing the dynamics in your race?
Well, we registered 90,000 people to vote in the month of August. We're still waiting on the September numbers, but they're going to be blockbuster. We've seen the college campuses. I was just down at Miami of Ohio the other day. They registered 2,000 people on campus to vote. So there are going to be thousands of young people energized, women energized. We were right beneath, Ohio was right beneath Kansas as far as registering new people to vote. And we saw what happened with the referendum in Kansas. I think that's going to be even stronger in the month of September. So it's animating the electorate big time. And I think, again, it's speaking to those moderate Republican, independent-minded voters who see this as big government overreach into the private lives of individual citizens. Like, this is big government, this in our bedroom, in our doctor's offices. And people don't want that in Ohio. We want the government out of our business in Ohio. So in that sense, it's opening the door again to this broader conversation about how extreme these groups are.
And in the final weeks here, you're going to have to make a decision in this major Senate race in Ohio, how you lean into certain issues. Yesterday, I interviewed Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. He told CBS News that Democrats do need to put an emphasis on abortion rights, but he argued they also need to make sure they're countering Republican overtures to working people. In other words, to not just talk about abortion. Is Senator Sanders right?
Yeah, we have to have a robust economic message going into the last 3 or 4 weeks here. Without a question, if we go all in on one issue, that would be wrong because gas is still, in the high threes, $3.75, $3.85, depending on where you're at. Bread, milk, all these costs are still high. And so you have to speak to that. I've been calling for a tax cut for working people. But if you don't recognize the economic strain that people are under, and it is solely about the Dobbs decision, I think that would be a huge mistake for Democrats. So I would encourage, anybody running right now to make sure you have a robust economic message, as well as the big government overreach and the violation of personal freedom that came with the Dobbs decision.
This is a marquee Senate race. Congressman Tim Ryan, Democrat of Ohio, we appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
So there is that lingering question. Do national Democrats have plans to pump more money into races like Ohio? We'll follow the money with our political director next. You're streaming Red and Blue.
Original CBS Reports documentary.
Yoga and wellness has become a place of anti-science.
Online clickbait.
The algorithms feed you content based upon your own fantasy.
Potentially at my peril.
There's no question about it.
Spreading digital disinformation.
Their entire yoga studio and spiritual community got so embedded in all of the QAnon stuff that it became a sick place.
Why pro-health people are fertile ground for anti-science messages.
We can just go into the whole mask thing. A lot of us just believe that's symbolism for silencing people.
People are locked in this mindset. They've been taught to accept what the medical doctors say.
No longer are you going to be willing to take any medical advice.
It's a big problem that we urgently need to address.
An original CBS Reports documentary streaming now. An original CBS Reports documentary.
We need to put an end to this territorial status.
Will statehood create a better Puerto Rico?
So that we have the same quality of life that you see in the States.
What do you worry about?
Me living here in the future?
They're giving incentives to non-Puerto Ricans to come to Puerto Rico
and extract our natural resources and take over our land.
Vacation in Puerto Rico, and in exchange for that, you don't pay taxes.
Why would I allow somebody who abused me for 123 years to then consume me?
An original CBS Reports documentary, streaming now.
When weather turns extreme,
Massive and rapidly intensifying hurricane.
every second counts.
Hurricane Fiona slams Puerto Rico with flooding and power outages.
CBS News and the Weather Channel bringing virtual weather technology so advanced, so real.
Well over 9 feet. This is not survivable.
You'll have time to get prepared.
You want to have the advantage on severe weather days.
It just may save your life.
Feel the forecast. Weather when it matters most on CBS Mornings.
People from every corner of America facing challenges.
Everyone is just looking for some type of connection.
Just raise your hand and say, hey, I'd like to help.
Coming together to find solutions.
We are going to do something about it.
Their stories are our stories.
Welcome to Eye on America.
Stream now on the free CBS News app.
We are so excited we just can't hide it.
CBS Mornings are, well, everything your morning should be.
Let's do it!
Let's go!
CBS Mornings, starting at 7.
Stories that inform, inspire, and brighten your day.
I've been waiting patiently for something like this.
Make every day a little more like Sunday morning.
Here comes the sun.
Stream on the free CBS News app Tuesday mornings.
Welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Robert Costa. 4 weeks out from the midterms, and many of the races we're following are producing no clear frontrunners so far. Tight races across the country. CBS News political director Finn Gomez joins us now at the table. Finn, we just heard from Ohio Congressman Tim Ryan. Right. He says he's not sure if the DSCC is going to pour in money in the final weeks. He says they have a lot of calculations to make across the political map. What are the calculations Democrats are making as they look at the tight races across the country?
Well, first of all, if the DSCC has spent some money to help the Ryan campaign, Democrat sources that I spoke to just a little while ago say that Ryan has run a terrific race. But, they have to make tough choices. If you look at the landscape, like you just said, if you look at Wisconsin, if you look at Georgia, there are others, Pennsylvania, other races that are close, that are significant to their strategy to hold the Senate come November. And so where would you rather spend that money? The sources I spoke to have said.
Where do they want to spend the money?
Well, I mean, like in those places, in those battleground places that they, aside from where Ryan is. Ryan, as you know, it is the last couple cycles, as Ryan mentioned, this is a state where Trump won in the last 2 cycles. This is a place where Mike DeWine, who's running in the gubernatorial race, is up by double digits. It is trended red. So
Ryan's perhaps overperforming, but it's still a red state, won twice for Trump.
Correct. So it's a little bit more of an uphill battle if you say Wisconsin, where they have had some Democratic wins in previous cycles. So it's the smart money. Where does it go? Does it go to Ohio, where it's a little bit more of a steep climb, or does it go to places like Georgia? Does it go to places like Pennsylvania?
How are they
Wisconsin?
feeling about Pennsylvania? John Fetterman, the lieutenant governor, suffered a stroke earlier this year, but remains very competitive, not ahead of Mehmet Oz in several polls.
So it is still Fetterman's race to lose, they say. On average, there's about a 6-point difference where he's leading the Republican. So they feel safe about the Keystone State, but still, as you know, there's a big debate coming up at the end of the month. There's a lot that can happen.
October 25th, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. And it's only 28 days to the election. A lot can happen.
Nicole Killian down in Georgia today. Right. Rick Scott, the head of the NRSC, showing support, solidarity with Herschel Walker amid these allegations. Mm-hmm. Senator Tom Cotton, a conservative voice in the Senate, also down in Georgia.
Sure.
As she reported, a sign of support amid all of these political clouds.
Absolutely, and you're seeing that. And it's also, what you're seeing also, Bob, as you know, is that this is how crucial this race is to Republicans. It's almost a must-win, if you will, for them to take back the Senate. That's why the NRC chairman, Rick Scott, is there. That's why Cotton is there. They're circling the wagons. They're defending Herschel Walker. They need to win that state.
But they're nervous about Georgia. I mean, everybody I talked to nationally in the party and some on the ground in Georgia, we were just there last week.
Right.
They're wondering, can Walker close, even if he has the party's support?
Well, I mean, this latest controversy is a huge hurdle. I mean, frankly, I mean, in a race that close, razor thin, like these types of events, they impact this race. And yeah, so for them, they have to close. Can they? 28 days.
Finn Gomez, really appreciate your analysis. Thank you very much. And that does it for our program today. You can stream Red and Blue Monday to Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And a reminder, if you want to watch previous episodes of our show, you can see them anytime on the CBS News website. Just go to cbsnews.com/red and blue.
You ready? A generation of kids opens up on CBS Reports.
I just want to be like a regular kid.
Their world, their struggles, their voices.
What if I was white?
A lot of people like to call names and make you feel ashamed for being proud of who you are.
Now streaming free.